Hey, good morning. Good morning. It's good to be back again with you. Yeah, you. Drew, I really mean that. I love the live broadcast where folks jump in, to hang out for, this half hour or so. But I know that there are many, many folks that are watching the recording. And I really wish that I could be able to say, hey, and speak to you personally, but this will have to do. Just know I appreciate each and every one who jumps in when you can. If you can make the live show, that's, to me, it's always good because, I don't know, there's always something about live, you just never know what's going to happen. So, but good to be with you on a Wednesday, and we're making our way slowly towards the end of this year. Whew, boy, it's been an interesting one, and 2020 should be even more interesting. So let me say good morning to this breakfast club that's jumping in with me this morning. There's Bernadette and Ted. Well, it's an afternoon club for you, a lunch or whatever. Jane and, oh, Jason. It's a dinner club or maybe a bedtime snack club. All right, I'll stop. John, Sandra, Norma, good to see you guys. Oh my gosh, appreciate having you all along. Yeah, morning. All righty. So we continuing our journey here through the story of the prodigal son and just really taking our time to unpack the various components in this story because, as I've been saying, the Lord had spoken to me a number of years ago that this is not just a parable, but it's an allegory. And in that particular form of storytelling or literature, the various characters and different elements that are in the story can be interpreted. They can be understood to have specific meaning. And that's what we see here in such a tremendous detail. So the young man is now at the point where the bottom falls out and he is basically left penniless, homeless. He's in really, really bad shape. So yesterday we began to look at some of that, how in Luke 15:16, he became so hungry that he would have eaten the pig food and maybe even tried, And as I mentioned, the food that the pigs were fed back then was of very little nutritive value, so it wouldn't have helped him too much if he had. And so the verse ends up by saying that no one was giving him anything. All right, so basically just destitute. It's interesting that when you look at this idea of him filling his stomach, we look at the stomach as just the repository for food. Once it leaves our mouth, it drops down into the stomach. It's part of the digestive system, but it can represent also scripturally our innermost being, right? Out of our belly flows rivers of living water, right? So there is this aspect of the stomach where it can represent also kind of a womb like structure. And I know for us guys that's a stretch, but there is this idea that within our innermost being, this is where we actually do give birth to creativity and things that are related to what we are going to be creating, what we're meant to create as sons and daughters. And so, what we see graphically illustrated here is that the poverty spirit just never can satisfy us, and he is in the grip, the depths of the poverty spirit in his situation right here. And when we operate under the influence of that spirit, which basically makes us feel like there's no options, we have no resources, we're hopeless, basically. Uh, you just start to look for answers in all manner of places. And in his case, he was willing to sink to the depths of eating pig food, even though it would not have helped him. He would have eaten it and been, just as hungry at some point, minutes later, perhaps. So the idea here of a poverty spirit, when it affects us, right? As I say, it affects our entire outlook on life. And one of my favorite prophetic teachers is Graham Cook, and he wrote this about that particular state of being, poverty spirit. He says, "What would it take for you to develop an attitude and a mindset based on fullness as a way of life? A poverty spirit is not just about finances. It is not about being poor. It's about living with meager possibilities. It's about allowing yourself to think in a reduced way, in a way that reduces who you are and reduces who God is. A poverty mindset drops you below a level of revelation and truth." And that's what he's experiencing right now. He's experiencing that point in time where it's like, oh, no, I can't even begin to think about abundance. And so as a result, it's a very, very dark place, right? Yet we know that the Lord has this abundance for us. As I just mentioned in John 7, Jesus talked about how we have, from our innermost being is supposed to flow rivers of living water. And in fact, once you have become born again and filled with the Spirit, you have that river, those rivers, right? I don't think we understand. I know I don't yet understand why that is plural. Maybe somebody's got the revelation on that and you'd share it with me. But, we're filled to overflowing, and we live out of a realm where everything is possible, right? Jesus said all things are possible for him who believes. And we've referenced 3 John 2 on several occasions as we've gone through this story, where God's will is for us to be in health and to prosper, even as our soul prospers. So all of these things, right, are really in stark contrast to what he's experiencing and what many times we deal with as well in this life, because of all the circumstances and the situations that we find ourselves in for whatever reason, right? And so we have the wonderful option of actually becoming a manifestation of heaven on earth. And so that's this is where we're going, folks. I'm wanting to frame this story in the context of, okay, we may not be, as far out there as this young man in terms of our turning our back on God and walking away and just doing our own thing. But if we're honest, I think we all can admit that we do tend to live separate from Papa, because that's just all we've known, right? All we've known is a lifestyle where, okay, I'm going to, do my best to be a good Christian, to obey the Lord and obey his word and do the things I know I should do. But there's very little understanding or sense of this dynamic partnership, this oneness that I keep bringing you back to, right? And so that's the journey that for many of us is happening right now. We're in a place where we're waking up to the fact that life as we have known it is truly not satisfying to our core. We're discontent, not because we're being rebellious or, just being stupid, right? But there's this, we just know there's more, right? There's more. And that stirring there is a work of Holy Spirit because he wants us to become dissatisfied with the status quo so that we will desire more and we will want to go after more. And because the more is there for us. So that's kind of, the big thing here. Now, obviously, if you're watching this and you are literally prodigal in the sense you walked away from God years ago and never looked back, and now all of a sudden you're kind of like, maybe I need to rethink this idea. Good, because his arms are always wide open, as you're going to see as you can just continue along. We're going to unpack that as well. So, in this verse, it says that no one was giving anything to him. And that kind of represents this place where everything just all of a sudden seems very difficult. We feel so much struggle to just get through every day, just trying to survive, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I think if you're not there now, you certainly can say with me, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? And that is this idea that nobody helps us because we have really been very self-centered and self-focused and self-sufficient in what we have done, and that's kind of off-putting to people. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but when we kind of isolate and do things on our own and we give off this vibe, that, hey, you know what, I'm all right, I don't need you, and we may not even realize we're doing that, but people pick up, they pick that up, and we'll just like, all right, I'm not, this person clearly doesn't want any help, so I will leave them alone. And so, that's what kind of was happening in this young man's life. He had pretty much alienated everybody. And so when he fell upon hard times, people were like, oh well, it's a sad thing. And so the thing to learn from this, right, is that, well, when I am in a place where I am struggling, I should be willing to reach out, right? I should be willing to ask for help and not, keep myself from doing that. There's a real pride there that, that needs to be addressed, that keeps us from doing that sort of thing, right? Interesting to consider that the favor that God has for us in our lives is marked by receiving things, right? It's marked by God or other people giving us things. When we're walking in the favor that we have, well, we receive stuff. And that's just an amazing thing, right? God, he gives us what we lack because we've humbled ourselves. And James talks a lot about that in his letter. And you know what? Let me just take a quick minute here before I dive into the letter of James and just once again mention that Breakfast with Jesus, sponsored by Jesus Book and Gift. And of course, in this Christmas season, they are running all manner of amazing sales. And if you have folks on your list that you need to get things for, and you want to bless them with stuff that is going to edify or encourage, or possibly just entertain, right, in some way, you want to go down and check out what they've got there. They are the largest Christian bookstore here in New Jersey, Route 1 South in Island, and they're open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday from noon to 5. And you'll find just about anything you can imagine, from books to music to study materials, supplies for churches and Sunday school. They've got home decor items that are just wonderful. So plenty of gift ideas for you to check out. And again, with the sales that they have going on, oh my gosh, you're going to do very well this year with your Christmas budget. So check them out. Let them know you heard about them here on Breakfast with Jesus. All right. So, James kind of puts a lot of this into perspective in his letter. And in chapter 4, he talks about this, and he says, this is verse 3. He says, "You ask and do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures." So, he's not even asking here, but this idea is that even when we do ask, sometimes we're not going to get it because, we've got our priorities all messed up. But here's the verse really that I wanted to touch on, verse 6. He says, "But he, the Father, gives greater grace. Therefore it says, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble." Right? So, there's this need for us to come to a point in time where, even as this young man does, he finally comes to his senses. Right? That's what the next verse says. In verse 17, it says, "But when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men, servants, right, have more than enough bread, but I am dying here with hunger." Okay? So he comes to his senses. And, that process where we try to do things on our own with whatever, I don't know, intelligence, wisdom that we may possess, doing what seems right to us. And it just, wow, it's a mess, right? I mean, we all know what this is like on some level, where we've basically tried to do things in our own way, and it just doesn't work. Man. But in many cases, we still keep moving forward. We continue. We just, we're not getting the message. And we many times don't get the message until we just finally hit that rock bottom place. That place where you're so low, the only direction is up. Okay? Where in this case, he all of a sudden recognizes the state to which he has fallen. And you see that, oh my gosh, that is the grace of God. That is the Lord basically saying, now, maybe now you can see what I've been trying to show you, what I've been trying to tell you. You see, because his heart for us is, he doesn't want us to get to that place. He doesn't. But if we're not willing to humble ourselves, then we get humbled. The Bible also says that pride goes before a fall and a haughty spirit before destruction. And so being led in our own ways and our own strength and our own ideas eventually leads us to that, unless we are humble enough to recognize the correction that the Lord's trying to bring to us. Now, I mean, I can look back on my life and see many different instances where, I thought I knew best. I thought, and people actually tried to give me good advice and good counsel, and I wouldn't have it because I thought I knew better. And there you go, right? And I continued on until finally everything just broke down. I broke down. I was like, rock bottom. And that's sometimes what it takes. And it can look like many different things, just depending, on our unique situations. But what you need to know and what I needed to know when that happened is that God was just as much in that situation with me, with you, than when I was just as close to him as I ever was. See, he's there. That's the grace of God. That's where he says, okay, now maybe we can actually do something because you're willing to give up your mindset, your thoughts, your prideful, ways of looking at life and doing things the way you think you should or the way you want, right? Now we can, I got something to work with here, okay? And so that's the clarity that comes with hitting rock bottom. And it's also clarity that comes anytime we choose humility. We choose to say, I don't know. I thought this might be the right way to go, but, it seems like it might not be. Let me come back to Papa and let me ask, right? Let me ask. Let me be humble. James goes on to say here that if we humble ourselves in the presence of the Lord, this is verse 10, he will exalt us. What does that mean? That from whatever place we find ourselves, whatever dire straits we might find ourselves because of our own choices and let's be honest, our own stupidity, right? If we humble ourselves and say, wow, man, I've really blown it. Papa, forgive me, right? He says, yeah, absolutely. Now can I, lift you up, and you're like, yeah, please, would you rescue me? Rescue me out of the mess that I have put myself into here because I am doing what I thought was the right thing and I've just screwed up. I've made a total mess of my life, right? Or again, the journey where, you reach a point where it's like, things are really not going well here. What's going on? Why is that? Why am I struggling so hard here? And that's usually because we have taken a turn, or engaged in something that it was our bright idea, and unfortunately, it wasn't his, right? So, he never gives up. That's the key. The Father never, ever, ever gives up on us. He will work diligently in our current situation to bring us to our senses, so to speak. And we'll delve into that a bit more tomorrow. We're kind of running out of time today. But he doesn't give up. He just has too much invested in us as his children, and I'm talking about every person on the face of this earth, not just those of us that, have heard the good news and said yes to him. He feels this about every single person because all the world, right, are his children. Many of them don't know him yet the way we've been privileged to begin to know him. And so, having created everyone with this amazing uniqueness that expresses something of who he is, right? What an amazing investment that is in us. So, no, he doesn't give up. He continually works. He continually fights for what he desires for us, without, of course, violating our free will. He'll never do that. We've got to be the one that, when we hit that rock bottom place, looks up and says, okay, I surrender, right? That's all he's looking for. It's just that I surrender. And from that place, right, no matter what it is, no matter where it is, Romans 5:20 says that where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. You cannot ever get beyond his grace. And his grace is his empowering presence for you. That's what it's all about. His grace is always with us. Because you see, grace is the tangible, physical manifestation of his love, right? God is love, but love without an object it's not love. I don't know what it could, what you even could call it. Love requires something, someone to focus and to release that love. Well, God releases his love by means of his grace. And his grace is that empowering presence of God that is with us, even in the very depths, in the worst moments of our life. The Bible says, no matter how bad it is, his grace is even more with you at that time, in that place, than you can even imagine. And that is because he wants us to know how much he's there to rescue us, to deliver us, to bring us out, and to bring us in to all that he's created us for. So I don't know your situation. I don't know what you've been struggling with. But I want you to just know this today, that he is right there with you to make the difference. All it requires is turning to him in humility, saying, Lord, I surrender, and please come and rescue me. Lift me up and out of this. Bring me to where you want me to be, because I can't do this anymore. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, heaven rejoices when we make those kinds of those statements and prayers to him. That's all he's looking for, is a surrendered heart, so that he can do what only he can do, right? Oh my gosh. Such a wonderful thing. So I'd be encouraged. I release that encouragement over you today, that he has not left you, not abandoned you. He's there with you, and he is going to work and do his thing as you continue to keep surrendered and trust him to lift you up and out and bring you in. All right? That's cool. I love it. Oh, bless God. Let me say good morning to the rest of you great breakfast clubbers. Let me see, where did I leave off today? Alrighty. Patty, good morning. Donna, good morning. John, good to see you. Maria, Olga, Andrew, Callie, let's see. Joan, Franny, good morning. Patrick, Allison, Vicky, hey, it's been a while. All righty, thank you. Good to see you guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate having you along, as always. And thanks to each of you that are sharing this with your friends. I love seeing the new people jump in and find out about the Breakfast Club. And as always, reach out if you like to chat, or if you have any questions, send me a Facebook message or an email. Hey, have an awesome day. Boy, I pray you just enjoy the enveloping love and presence of our Papa as he just ministers deeply to your heart. And I'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern. All right. Thanks so much.